Andy is a bootstrapped SaaS founder. He founded datafetcher.com. Now he's creating a new startup called ClipRun, which we're going to talk more about today. But the whole point of this conversation is to learn from Andy because he is a solo bootstrap founder. He runs these companies by himself. He grew Datafetcher to, I think at this point, it's like over 20K monthly recurring revenue. And the plan is to grow ClipRun to even more than that. So we're going to talk about how he comes up with startup ideas, how he validates them, and then how he implements and sells them. So thanks so much for joining me today, Andy.
Yeah, really excited to be here, and happy to dive into all of that.
So let's start at the beginning because I feel like a lot of people want to get into entrepreneurship. Maybe something holds them back, or maybe they take a leap, and like the journey looks so different for all the different founders and entrepreneurs I talk to. So how did this all start for you? Like what got you into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think I definitely always had that drive, like to do something. I was always the person selling chewing gum in school or whatever it was, and wanting to like make a bit of money on the side. I even sold like Lego on eBay at one point. Like I had all these little ventures, but then I kind of realized that software development seemed like a really good career in terms of it gives you the tools to build something on the side and to do that. I studied engineering, but I never felt like I could actually use that to kind of do my own thing because you're always like a tiny cog in a machine building stuff. So got into software development after university, and then was spending my nights and weekends. I was just launching like these little projects, some of which got some users, but most of them kind of failed miserably. And then I had first one that kind of went anywhere and made some MRR was I figured out how to scrape TikTok. So just before TikTok blew up in lockdown, I figured out how to like reverse engineer the mobile app and like built this database of influencers and was selling that data to like marketing agencies. And basically that was the first one where it got to like a few K in monthly revenue and kind of felt like, oh, it was worth, spending all this time. Like there is something. I had like one good idea at least. And eventually I kind of sold that because I was just like, it just felt like not a good business to be in. It was like platform risk of TikTok on platform risk of scraping. And so I kind of sold it for enough money to like buy me a few months to work on the next thing, and then kind of spent a few months like coming up with Datafetcher and going for that. So I think I always had that drive, but software development I guess was the gateway into actually coming up with projects and like building them.
So there are two companies. So there's that third one that you mentioned that you ended up selling. But there are two companies that I want to talk about today and just really talk through the arc of how it came to be and like your whole approach and strategy for bringing it to market. First one is Datafetcher, which you just mentioned. So what was the genesis of this? Like, where did this idea come from? And then like, how did you figure out this was something that you could actually make a business around?
After I sold that last company that I mentioned, I kind of spent a few months where each week I'd come up with an idea and basically try and launch like a little MVP or launch something. And one of those ideas was like a newsletter for monitoring IPOs. So you could kind of get alerts for like upcoming IPOs to invest or whatever. And I thought I was just trying out new tools and stuff. And I thought I'd organize that in Airtable. And I needed to pull like stock prices into Airtable. And I couldn't figure out like a nice way to do that. And then I parked that idea, didn't go anywhere. And I do this kind of daily like trawl of like product hunt to try and see like kind of just looking for inspiration and stuff like that. And I saw this tool called API Connector, which is basically Datafetcher but for Google Sheets, not Airtable. And so I saw this product. It had 100,000 users, was clearly like doing quite well. Whatever the conversion rate was, I was like, oh, this is a thing. And so I was thinking like I kind of connected those two things. Like here's this tool, here's that problem I had in Airtable. Maybe I could build this API connector tool for Airtable. And it was just really good timing because basically they were just opening up the Airtable marketplace to developers to build tools on top of it. And so I basically was one of the first apps on there. And so there's very little competition. It was, really fortunate timing. And I kind of just took a bit of a leap of faith, really. Like I didn't explicitly validate it, but I knew like obviously Zapier was a thing. There were loads of connectors and integration tools. And I could see like a few forum posts and Reddit posts and stuff like that. And I could see that like some people have this problem of getting data into Airtable. So I didn't go out and talk to loads of users and validate it. I kind of felt like if I can build it in a couple of months, I can make that bet basically that it's worth doing.
So it was kind of like a vibe check. You just saw this thing and you just had a feeling, and I don't know, maybe you had a sense as an Airtable user, like this was a pain point for you. So, maybe it's a pain point for other people. And then another piece of evidence came in where you already saw a product that did the same exact thing for Google Sheets. So it was this idea of, okay, let me just steal that idea. They've already gone through the validation process. They've already like brought the whole thing to market. Let me just steal that idea and retool it for Airtable. And then I guess the next thing was just, okay, let me build it fast and just put it out there and see what happens. When you were doing those project ideas, I was just reading a blog post that you wrote about how Data Fetcher, came to be, like how you bootstrapped it to 10K MRR. And I guess this was 2 years ago. So you said that you were just posting a lot of landing pages to try to come up with ideas. So is that something you also did for Data Fetcher, or that was just the kind of ideas that led you eventually to that IPO newsletter idea?
Yeah, it wasn't something I did for Data Fetcher. I did the whole like build in public on Twitter and like had a few people interested, like no code influencer type people who could see what I was building. And so when I launched, I had a newsletter of like, I don't know, 50 people, 100 people to like launch to. So I did the whole build in public thing when that was kind of more popular. I don't think I built a landing page, or I probably had a very basic one, just to do upgrades and stuff. So you can't do billing through the marketplace on Airtable. So I had to do all that myself on like my website. So I had some basic things set up with like the newsletter capture, but I think, I didn't really validate. I wasn't doing the whole like, get people on a call and work out their stuff. I kind of looked at this functionality of this API connector, and then I thought, what changes when you change from Sheets to like a database tool like Airtable? And like it wasn't just a kind of like copy and paste. There's a lot of like nuance to Airtable versus Sheets in terms of like how you link records, whatever it is. And then when I launched actually on Product Hunt and stuff, I credited Anna, who built API connector, and was like, shout out to Anna. I haven't just copied. Here's some other features that I've added. And what was really nice is she's now copied features from Data Fetcher into API connector. So we kind of have this symbiotic thing where like we've both kind of helped each other out over the years, which has been quite nice as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. You took this idea, you built it in 2 months. Then what happened? Like, what was the response?
Yeah, so then there was 2 months of working with Airtable to get it through the marketplace review, which was kind of like, because it was so early, they like hadn't answered a lot of their security questions and stuff internally. So they were like, wait, do we want to let this app that just lets you connect it to anything? Like there's a few things like that. And then got it onto marketplace, got a customer after like 3 days, which was kind of, obviously so exciting to be like, I didn't just waste the last 4 months of my life. And then, got that first customer. And because it was so early, just they started trickling in. So I'd get like, maybe like 10, 15 signups a day, free users, maybe one would convert. So there's like a steady stream of customers coming in and like a bunch of feedback. Started tidying up all the stuff that I'd skipped to like get it built in 2 months, started like improving it. It's just a case of like getting that feedback, iterating, not doing a huge amount of marketing, more just like the one and done stuff like Product Hunt, like Reddit, like Airtable was like small enough at the time that all the community and things like that, they had like quite a high spam tolerance. So like if I posted it on the Airtable forums or like the subreddit, whatever, it wasn't like posting on a lot of places now where it'd just be immediately shut down for like self-promotion, because it's kind of just like this smaller community, and it was genuinely helpful. So like I could get quite a bit of kind of interest through that before I then looked for like that bigger channel to like get more people through the door. But it was just a case of like iterating, getting that feedback, speaking to customers, like all that stuff.
Interesting. So you did Product Hunt, you did Reddit, you did Airtables, like different channels. I guess there was Reddit and maybe some other places, like maybe a Slack channel or something like that.
Yeah, there's like a Slack community. There was like the Airtable community forums as well. So there's 5 or 6 places where you could kind of, every time I did a new update and added like a big new feature, I just post it in there. And
nice.
So, and I had a newsletter building up of all the people that are signing up as well.
So you're getting like 1 user a day, and then like how long did this last? And then I guess in those early days, like how much? I'm pretty sure you were working full time still. So this was like a side gig. You didn't need to eat off of it, or this was full time at this point?
Yeah, so I was full time because I'd sold that last business, but I was like slowly running out of money because I was like, I was getting maybe like 1 customer a day, but they're only paying like $15 or something. So like adding like a few hundred in MRI each month, like maybe between like 200 and like 600. So I was like, okay, this is pretty good. This is ticking up, but also I live in London. Like this isn't enough to live on. And so I could kind of like map out, unless something hugely changed in like the growth, I could be like, oh, this will get there in a year or two, but also it's not, I'm going to drain my savings doing that. So that's when I went back to like doing some part-time contracting, like some freelance work. Even ended up making some Airtable extensions as my freelance work for big companies. So I basically just started doing that work part-time as well, and then doing it nights and weekends, which those were definitely the hardest hardest like months, I think, because you're onto something, but you've got support emails coming in when you're like trying to do your day job and stuff like that, and you're having to sacrifice on weekends. The other kind of, I guess, semi-fortunate thing was like it was 2021, so it was like COVID. There wasn't a whole load of stuff. A lot of the world was in lockdown. I had a lot of time to be at home working on it. Well, the FOMO wasn't as bad as it maybe would be now.
Oh yeah, like going out and having fun and things like that.
Yeah.
That's really interesting what you're saying. So this was like that awkward middle where you were doing freelance work to pay the bills because you couldn't go full into the product, into data fetcher. But also data fetcher was like getting traction and going somewhere, obviously. So it was like this like awkward in between. So how long did that period last? And then what was it that finally allowed you to go full time into data fetcher and stop freelancing?
Yeah, so it was probably about a year to get to like $5,000 MRR.
Wow.
Which I think of as like London ramen, like you can just about live on that. People say ramen's like $2,000 whatever a month, but yeah, that's quite an outdated like figure, and also like inflation,
Right.
etc. So I think like it was about a year to get to 5K, and I was like, okay, this is something now. And I think it was around then. I didn't get fired, but like basically my contract finished because the startup I was working for ran out of money as well, and that coincided with like a good growth month. So like those two things, I think that was around 3 or 4K, and I was like, okay, this is enough. I'm going to jump ship, and I kind of went full time on it then. And that was amazing, because then you just like, could treat it as the day job, which is just so much like more time and kind of energy efficient. So yeah, that was about a year. And then it was into like full-time mode, which was brilliant.
And so was this just organic growth, or did you start devoting more energy or different strategies to marketing?
I mentioned all the one and done stuff, and that gets you so far. But then after that, I was kind of thinking like, how can I find like a more scalable channel, something that I can actually rinse and repeat and build out. So I basically responded to like a forum post, an Airtable forum post, and I made a YouTube video of like, here's how you can solve that problem using data fetcher. And I noticed that like a bunch of other people were following along with the video. So I could see from like user activity they were copying the tutorial. And that was like, a penny dropped. And I was like, okay, wait, so I just need to make YouTube videos and actually tell people how to use it. I'd basically look at the most popular like use cases based on customer usage. So it might be connecting to like Google Ads or whatever it was, and then write a blog post on each of those, make a YouTube video, and kind of do that rinse and repeat for like every single API that you could integrate with. Eventually that led to like making these kind of pre-built recipes. You didn't even have to like be technical and put in the API details yourself. But that was probably the step change in terms of like, we have so many different use cases, and this marketing is just kind of building up that, along with just like slowly iterating the product, fixing all the little bugs and stuff like that, making it stable, I guess. Those were the two big things that just kind of made it increase the revenue. So like some months it would go up maybe 1 to 2K MRR would be growth, as well as a couple of bigger customers. Like I say enterprise, they spend like a few grand a year, but they pay like all up front, so you get the cash up front and stuff like that. And those just came through. Having a free plan was amazing for that, because you just get these people at big companies signing up, and then they talk to their boss or whatever, and then they want to go through procurement to do like a bigger plan.
Starting a YouTube channel was a big one because you started like solving people's pain points that you were hearing in the forums through videos, and then that was just like a natural lead magnet or a natural way to promote the product. So you said it took about a year to kind of get to the London ramen, and what was this, like 2-3 years ago at this point?
Yeah, that was maybe 3.5 years. So that was like 2021.
Yeah.
Halfway through 2021 hit 5K, and I think 10K was like 2022, so like 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
And then definitely started to flatten about a year and a half ago. So started to plateau around 20K, which obviously still like super healthy, but like did get to this point where I was like, I don't know how much more this is going to grow, kind of thing.
So at this point, it's like pretty stable at 20K a month, and that's been for the last 2 years. What does the support look like to kind of maintain that 20K?
So it's actually the last few months actually been ticking up again. So it should hit 25 pretty soon, which is
nice,
super exciting. And there was one big step change where I made annual plans like way cheaper, so like a 50% discount, and that got stuff growing after like a year plateau.
nice.
So that was like huge as well, just because it reduced churn loads. So it's kind of like the growth is much slower, but it's still like steadily growing. But my motivation is definitely ebbed and flowed with the growth rate, which is kind of I think is kind of natural. In terms of the support, it varies a lot. So like sometimes you'll have stuff break and you're like fixing stuff on like a Friday night and it's super annoying. Most of the time it's pretty chill. So like it can take like a month off to travel, and yeah, just do it. And like, you can never properly take time off, right? You've always got to do support, but you can do like 10-15 minutes of emails a day, and it just runs itself, and it's amazing. Wow. The only downside, I guess, of the nature of the product is because I've got all these integrations with like third-party APIs. I've got like about 50 of them. When they change something, I have to update Datafetcher to kind of maintain that integration, just to kind of stand still. You have to do a bit of dev work. And so what I realized is like, it's really easy to build integrations, but you create this drag for development of like maintaining all of them. And so now I'll only add them if it's like Anthropic, OpenAI, like the ones that are just, I can see it taken off in normal usage. I build those as like pre-built integrations.
Interesting. So I feel like a lot of people, when they hear your story, like this is their dream of like being an entrepreneur, like being a solo founder. Like you see this stuff on YouTube and like other places. What do you feel? And I'm sure you had a similar mindset, or, you know, you also had this aspiration that to kind of live the life that you're living now. But what was something that you didn't fully realize or appreciate about the reality of building a company like this that you wish you would have known, like, I don't know, at the outset? Maybe it would have helped a little bit.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think it's probably like, one is just, yeah, it's not passive income, right? Like the only passive income is index funds. That's what I've realized. So yeah, there's probably this misconception that like it's just pretty chill and you don't have to do that much. And I think, yeah, that's definitely not the case. But as I said, like I can take a month off and sometimes I'm hardly working for that month. So like it can be pretty passive, but it's never truly just like chill. And then I think the other one actually is just that like, it's not about like escaping work, like entrepreneurship. It's not about like not having to work ever again, because that would probably be quite boring as well. I don't think we're wired to like not work and just sit on a beach and like drink cocktails. I now look at it more as like, how can I make like the perfect job, something that I want to do every day and keep stuff interesting for myself, rather than like, how can I, like never have to work again. But in general, I pinch myself every day that I do get to do it. I'm genuinely like, I try and remember to be really grateful, because you do habituate to like the revenue or whatever it is. You do kind of get used to that. But yesterday I was just like, wow, I haven't had a meeting that I didn't want to do for like 4 years, and like haven't had a boss for like 5. I mean, it is pretty amazing. I feel very lucky.
That's amazing. And I feel like kind of how you're explaining it, you don't want to just like sit on the beach and like drink cocktails. Like you want to work. And I feel like you get like satisfaction through that. And I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs feel the same way. So that probably explains why you weren't satisfied with the maybe working one Friday and night and then taking a month off, because Datafetcher's in a good place. And then you started this new venture, Clip Run. So like, what was the whole story behind starting that?
One thing that's always slightly concerned me with Datafetcher is that like it's totally built on Airtable, and its fortunes are kind of tied up with theirs, and like they're doing well, but they're not, maybe the no code like darling that they once were, and maybe I think their growth has plateaued and stuff, and I think that's had a knock on. So I was always kind of like open to the next opportunity or the next idea, and messed around with a couple of things. And obviously AI has created like a revolution in coding, but specifically it's made Python like way more popular than it used to be. And so I think partly because like LLMs like default's giving you Python if you ask for a function or a script or whatever. And then also obviously because you use Python to like write LLM code. So I was kind of I was on Claude and I was like asking for something in Python. And then I just saw that little warning that's like, Claude does not have the ability to run the code that it generates. And I knew that ChatGPT did. It's got the canvas feature and you can run it. And so I just thought like Claude is so much more popular for devs and for like, kind of like low code people. Why doesn't it have like the comparable feature? And so I think with like AI and LLMs and stuff, it is going to open up this level of flexibility in like coding to people that aren't technical. So like the kind of people that use Datafetch, people who can just about figure out what an API is, or like can just about read the docs, and then they can plug that into Datafetch to work, right? So it's just reducing that barrier a little bit. And so I thought one level up from that is kind of like people who can just about read and write like the Python scripts, and maybe they're like a business analyst who's like done a little bit of coding or stuff, but they're not like a full-blown dev that's going to like download Cursor or whatever. I thought there must be loads of those people out there. And so if they can ask, like vibe code and whatever it is, they can just like ask ChatGPT or Claude or whatever for the code. And then how can you make it seamless to basically run that? So you're not setting up like a Python environment, anything like that. You just right click, run it, auto detects all the code, whatever, installs everything for you and just runs it automatically. So that was I guess the genesis of the idea. I spent a couple of months building it. I absolutely loved building something from scratch again. And it's very early, but I'm hoping that it's the next thing.
No, I like this vibe code concept. I feel like that's jargon from X. I don't spend enough time on X, but I get it because like you just kind of get into this flow of like, especially with like language models, they just start spitting things out and you get like very rapid positive feedback. You're like getting stuff done really quickly. But setting up a Python environment is a great way to kill the flow because unless you've got like things you can like quickly copy paste and set up the requirements and like you're familiar with the library, so it's like really easy for you. Like it's just gonna kind of kill your stream of consciousness. But I can definitely see like, oh, you just highlight this, or you just do like a quick keyboard shortcut or right click or something, and it spins up a Python interpreter, spins up an environment in the like your Chrome or something like that. Would be like super helpful to kind of keep the vibes going. So the first time for Data Fetcher, it was kind of like this vibe validation approach where you saw it was just like a few like sparse data points that you kind of like put together and just made a bet. Was your validation process similar for ClipRun, or was there a different approach here?
Yeah, it was quite similar. So one thing I looked
Okay.
at a bit more, because I've kind of learned a lot more about SEO. So I looked at like search volume for all kind of stuff to do with Python and like scheduling Python, running Python. Looked at like a lot of existing tools. There's a lot of like Replit and tools like that need you program online. There's one called Python Anywhere as well that's quite popular. So I could see there's like enough existing players that like there seems to be, you just need to like run Python in the browser basically. And so it's kind of that combined with these search volume trends, and then I guess the AI gave me like this unique feature that I hadn't seen any of these other tools happening. So like doing it as a browser extension, enabled that feature. So I was like, oh, I think I can like build something that's maybe slightly different. It's got a unique positioning in the market, and there seems like this demand for it. But yeah, I mean, it's currently stuck on one customer, so we'll see if that vibe-based validation works as vibe-based coding. But who knows? I think I have a still feeling in my gut that like there's something there, and I just need to persevere with it. And that if it does work, there's a way bigger ceiling to it than Data Fetcher, just because it's such a bigger market. And also there's tools like Jupyter Notebooks and stuff like that. And there's a lot of tools that do some sort of form of like Python online. So it just seemed like a sort of existing problem, but I could take like a new approach to it.
Do you have this intuition like there's something here, even if it's not like the current version of ClipRun, you're maybe just like a couple pivots, like a pivot or two away from like figuring out something that could be much bigger than Data Fetcher?
Yeah, I think so. So like at the moment it's a browser extension, and that is for that to enable that functionality. But now I'm thinking like, could it just be a web app? Can I basically reuse the code and just have it as like on cliprun.com, and you just go there and it's just like an immediate environment. Like it doesn't necessarily need to be a browser extension, and actually that limits the usage to like people on Chrome on desktop. And looking at the analytics, only like 10% of the people are using the right click to run functionality. Most people are just using it as like a nice editor that they like. And the daily active users is like steadily growing. And so I'm wondering like, why have that barrier of like add to Chrome? You get the scary warning that's like, this can, read your data on every site. That loads of people must be lost there. So like, why not just make it a web app? But I've literally made that decision today, so we'll see how.
Oh, nice. So there's like a right click to run feature, and then I don't know. Maybe we could do like, do you have like a quick demo handy, just so I can picture it? I haven't gotten the chance to actually use it myself.
So we'll go to cliprun.com, click add to Chrome, and that'll take us to the Chrome web store where we can add the extension. When you first add it, it'll take you to this welcome screen, and this is like the key functionality, I guess, which is that any code snippet on the internet now. So
interesting.
This is on our site, and then obviously you can work on Claude or whatever. We can just right click that, hit run Python.
Nice.
And that is going to auto detect the code, install requests for us, and make that API request. The first time we do it, it's kind of got to like initialize Python, so it takes a little bit longer.
It's a little slow.
But it still only took like 2 seconds. Second time it'll take no time at all. And that's like the key thing. We have this playground where we can kind of like right click any snippet, it'll get auto added to here. We can also like organize that into different clips. So we can create like a new clip here and add any code. And then we can save this playground as well. So once we're happy with it working, we can save it here as check my IP. And so this will work on Claude in a really similar way. Maybe I'll say, give me a Python script to scrape I can use.
And if you didn't have import requests, would it be able to figure out that it needs requests, or it needs the imports?
It needs the imports, yeah. So you don't have to do like pip install, but it does need the imports.
Nice.
which to be fair, like most tools will give you that. It's only if you're running it on like partial snippets, I guess.
Like if you go to some like one of those like Python tutorial websites, or you just like go to, I don't know, Stack Overflow, and they have like a snippet of code without the imports or something.
Yeah,
like
you'd
that.
have to like copy and paste that and organize it yourself.
Yeah.
But it'll work on like GitHub, like any AI tool,
Nice.
most tools. But yeah, it won't quite do the kind of join the dots for you, I guess. So yeah, we can do this one from Claude, and this will install like beautiful soup, pandas, and we can see that we got this output here. And then any file output, there's like a file system in here. So it created this CSV here that we can download as well. And we can also see it here, so we can download it. We can also upload files, so we can upload a file here, like our own CSV, and then analyze that. Or if we upload a Python, like a .py file, it'll get added as a clip here as well.
Yeah, so it's almost like it just makes it more seamless, because I feel like the main pain point here, like really boiling down, is setting up Python environments. Like sometimes you don't want to take that like 5 minutes to kind of kill your creative flow. I feel like especially now, like what I was saying earlier, with large language models, you can like really quickly start making progress on a project idea. And then having to like go like set up a Python environment can really kill the vibe. I'm really curious how you built this, like technically. Like I've never built a Chrome extension. Is this something you had experience with before? You just had to like figure it out, and because it's a really slick UI.
Yeah, so I relied on Claude a lot for like the UI stuff, for a lot of the front end stuff. But there was a lot of overlap with my previous experience. Like it's all React, TypeScript, which was like a data fetcher is built in. And then I used WXT as the framework for creating Chrome extensions. It was really, really nice. Quite a new framework, but it was really, really nice. So it's WXT, and then Shad CN is like the UI components library, which is built on the back of Tailwind, which is really nice as well. I think Claude defaults to that. But yeah, it's just got a bunch of kind of pre-built components.
Nice. Okay. So a lot of like different front end frameworks, like just web development stuff. And was that your background when you're a software developer?
Yeah, so I was front end. So it's the back end stuff that I'd struggle with a lot more. So yeah, the front end was not too bad to build. And yeah, this is all just happening locally, right? This Python execution.
Nice.
And then there's a scheduling feature, which is kind of like where the paywall is. The idea being that like most people just use this as like a playground. They can just use it as much as they want and no limits, which is kind of like, I guess, a competitive advantage over like some tools like Replit and stuff like that. And then the idea being that like maybe 1% of people might need to schedule this to happen automatically. So something that's really crazy, I basically said to Claude, I gave it all the Airtable API docs, the CoinGecko API docs, and said, write me a script that fetches crypto prices and updates Airtable. Here's my Airtable API key. And within a couple of minutes, I had something that I could schedule in ClipRun that does exactly what Data Fetcher does.
Wow.
So it basically is like would be a drop-in replacement for Data Fetcher. But obviously that's an example. You could pick any two APIs, right? You pick Notion and Google Analytics, whatever it is. And so like it does give you that flexibility because it's code, right? You can basically automate anything. That's the kind of bet that I'm taking, that like this, I guess like low code or like AI generated code is like the future of maybe no code stuff or low code stuff. Rather than tools.
It's like one step up from no code. It's like what you're saying earlier, like people who kind of have a vague understanding how code works, but they're not really going to be writing projects from scratch. Was there anything else you wanted to show on the demo, or that was basically it?
Give me 1 sec. I'll just sign in and I can show the scheduling stuff as well. Of course, as I mentioned, there's this upgrade functionality as well. And so we can upgrade for like $9 a month. And that unlocks this scheduling feature. So here we've got like a little stock price checking script, and we can use the schedule runs, and then we can just schedule it to run every day at 9 a.m. or whatever it is. And once we've done that, it'll save, and that will happen on the back end. So that happens in like AWS Lambda. So that happens running like actual Python. And we can see that like it's running this automatically and connecting whatever we need it to. And we have this little run history here as well. So,
and since this is running locally, do people need their browser open to like run these schedules, or they'll get scheduled like somewhere else and then it'll go run on Lambda?
Yeah, so this runs in the cloud, so you can have you don't need your browser open. You can have your laptop off, whatever. We're now saving the code to the back end. All encrypted. Doesn't have access to like your local files or anything like that, but the code's uploaded and then run in Lambda. And so that's that kind of missing piece of like what if I need to run this every day or whatever it is,
Yeah.
which is also really fiddly in Python. Trying to get like task scheduler or whatever set up to run stuff on a cron job or whatever is quite fiddly. So
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So this is like, I feel like another angle here is just like this whole automation wave that we're seeing now. I feel like, Zapier got a boost and now we're seeing like these agentic or like AI agent platforms where you can build like no code AI agents and stuff. So I feel like this kind of like fits into that ecosystem, and it'll be really interesting to see, because I do imagine there's going to be like a subset of developers like building stuff from scratch is just not as fast as no code, but then the no code tools are just not that flexible, and like I can't really do exactly what I want to do. So maybe there's like this can kind of fit in the middle somewhere, or maybe like it evolves to something else that kind of really matches that niche. So I'm really curious about like what the user base looks like now. Who's the typical user? And then you said you have one paying customer. What do you know about that user and like their profile?
the downside to it all happening locally is that I basically can't see much because there's no sign up, which I did to kind of reduce friction. I can't actually see who's using it in particular, which means I don't have that much insight until they become a paying customer, and there's only one paying customer. Paying customers like do some scraping workflow. That's a use case. They need to do like a daily scraping, and that's kind of all I have to go on at the moment. So I'm in this kind of phase where I'm trying to figure out who is that target customer. To me, I think that the two use cases that jump out are like API integration. So the thing I mentioned about Airtable of like connecting two different APIs in a really like flexible way, and then scraping as well. So like some sort of like data gathering. I think those are two like the big use cases that I feel like would be the people that pay for it. So it's trying to figure that out, how to find those people and what they need. But I've had enough product feedback that I've got like stuff to build. So like stuff like adding environment variables and bits and pieces like that, that I think there's some low hanging fruit to make it like even more helpful and like I guess more like of an IDE than just like a tiny little playground. So there's a bunch of stuff to build, but I think key bit now is trying to work out who that
Yeah, I feel like those environment variables will be really important because that'll differentiate you from Canvas. Because I guess you'd have to like hard code API keys or something like that in Canvas if you wanted to do it. But if you had like a special place for the environment variables, that'd be really cool. But I assume like how many users you have for that one paying one. So like what's that ratio currently?
Yeah, it's getting less healthy by the day, but yeah, so it's about 900 installs,
Oh
or like
wow.
900 active installs. So like include taking out all the ones that have uninstalled it, and then one paying customer. They came after like 300 or 400 installs,
Hmm.
which it's not super healthy, but the install count is it's going up like 50 installs each day, and only maybe 10% are uninstalling it, which like that feels pretty healthy. And as I said, like the daily active users kind of steadily growing. So
Nice.
my bet with making so much of it free and unlimited and no sign up and stuff was that I can get a bit more mind share. So one of the problems
Yep.
that Data Fetcher suffers from is like you only have like 100 runs before you need to start paying, which kind of limits how many people can pay for it, or sorry, it limits how many people can like I don't know make a video about it or like promote it and stuff
Mm.
like that, as well as like makes it kind of less competitive compared to like Exano and like some of these other tools that are in the market or some of the open source competitors and stuff, because it's just like quite stingy, I guess is the word. But it does make that free to paid conversion rate really healthy. So I guess
Mhm.
it's a trade-off. I don't know if you're familiar with like Tally Forms. I was kind of looking at
I think
what they've
so.
done,
Yeah.
and they're like a Typeform competitor. They've
Right.
got a really generous free plan where you can do like unlimited forms, unlimited responses on their free plan, and you just pay for like collaboration features. So kind of inspired by that of like, how can we
Yep.
give away a bit more to hopefully get like a wider adoption base,
Hmm.
and then convert like a smaller percent. Maybe people then won't be on the lookout for like what tool can I replace with this with because it's like so expensive. So
Yeah, and I feel like you can be generous because it's all running on the browser. Like you don't have to pay for the additional new user. It's only the paid users that you have to incur a cost for, but then they're already paying you, so that's not a problem. Last time you did these one-off things of like Hacker News, Reddit, forums, Slack. Did you take a similar approach to acquisition for ClipRun?
yeah, definitely. So I'd post it in each relevant kind of subreddit, so like the Claude one or whatever, and got like a fair few users and installs from that. Enough that I was like, there's something interesting here. There's just a lot more noise now. Like there's a lot more people launching stuff. Platforms like Product Hunt they're not what they used to be. It's not. It doesn't feel like a kind of tight community in the same way that it used to. Or Twitter's just obviously kind of saturated now. So I don't think you can get quite as much interest through that, and maybe partly because it's like a broader tool, right? Whereas like Data Fetcher was like in this tiny little Airtable kind of niche. So I got something through that, and then I started doing a bit of outreach to YouTubers like yourself and trying to work out like, how do we how do we go with people that already have an audience? And then the big one, the one that I'm kind of making the biggest bet on, is SEO. So people that have that use case of like how to schedule Python or Python compiler with libraries and stuff like that, that's the one that I'm kind of looking at now and investing, because I do think price per like user, the amount that people pay, on average, is going to be fairly low, especially with that like free to pay being quite low. And so ads and stuff like that is probably not the one. It'll be too expensive. It's going to be something like SEO, where you can get a lot of volume in at like a low price, just invest in my time in it rather than lots of money in it. So it's I'm now trying to work at that scalable channel, and also like tutorials, so like actually teaching people how to use it.
Yeah, and I was going to say that because YouTube seemed to work well for data fetcher, and I can imagine there are just endless automation use cases you can come up with, and doing it like similar way where you find these pain points. And I feel like they're going to be a lot more for like general automation than there are for like data integration on Airtable. And I can just imagine like a bunch of YouTube titles will like come to mind, like how I automated X in like 5 minutes or something like that, and people love that shit. Like they're gonna like slam that video, and then like Clip Run is like the solution. So I'm curious about like reaching out to YouTubers. So like we did this podcast, but I guess you're reaching out to people for them to generate sponsored videos, sponsored content. So how's that going?
Yeah, it's going good. So I've been targeting kind of like Python web scraping or Python AI, like those kind of topics.
Okay.
Or people that have reviewed ChatGPT, Canvas, like that kind of thing, where it's like adjacent and they already have like a decent sized audience. The response rate has been pretty good, maybe 20-30% response rate, working with like 10% of people that I've outreach to. So you don't need to contact that many people to get some like interesting partnerships out of it. It's probably not profitable in terms of like a ROI, in terms of like how much you have to pay for a YouTuber, just because of that, like I haven't got enough customers coming through it yet. But if you can improve the conversion rate on my side, then maybe it becomes profitable. And I think also just looking at it, it's like once those videos are up and the views are just like trickling in the future, if it's like slightly more evergreen content like topics, then I think like they can be worth it from that side of it as well. At the moment, I think it's just trying to drive a bit of awareness, even if it's not profitable. Just trying to get the word out there.
Has a video been made yet? And have you gotten a sense of like the conversions and the data from video that you've done through one of these sponsorships?
Yeah, so I sponsored this AI influencer who did like a use case, where he's basically like, he did got a video on Twitter and LinkedIn. I'm completely blanking on what the video showed. I think it was like scraping and then uploading to Google Drive and then scheduling that to like run every day. And that's where the first customer came from. So not a good conversion rate, but like proof that like sponsoring this video drove about 300 users, free users, and then one paying customer off the back of it. So there's something there, as I say, but it's trying to work out like how to make it like more scalable and profitable, I guess.
And then how many views did that video get? Like maybe like 30,000 or so?
On Twitter, it got like 150,000, but I don't know what they count as a view, whether it's like someone scrolling past. And, so hard to say, but like had enough likes and bookmarks and stuff that I was like, clearly like a lot of people engaged with it. And they posted it on LinkedIn and Threads as well, and did all right on those as well.
So it wasn't a YouTube video, it was like a video.
No, that was Twitter.
Or
X. YouTube. I think YouTube, like the slightly longer form content, could be quite nice as well, because it actually shows people how to use it rather than like a quick video. But I'm hoping that like, because it is just that right click to run stuff and like the schedule, you could actually make some pretty short form videos. That's the kind of the whole point of the product, is that like it does let you do it without worrying about setup. So hopefully short form could work too. And
then the SEO, like what's your strategy for doing that? Is it just like finding the right keywords for the landing page? Or I know nothing about SEO, so I'm just genuinely curious. Using Ahrefs is kind of like the tool to use, right? And just looking around Python, so what existing keywords can I fit into the use cases? So how to schedule Python every day, online Python compiler, like those kind of things, and then building out like a dedicated landing page for each of those. And it's in the very early days. It obviously can take months to work. So landing pages are all on like page 4 or 5 at the moment, but hopefully as you like then build links to the homepage and to those pages, you kind of like the traffic starts to tick up. So building landing pages, building slightly longer form like tutorial content for like how to do certain things in Python. So like whether it's reading JSON files, whatever, trying to do like tutorials around those, and then
the name of it, I don't know if you spotted, but like the name of it is Python Code Runner on the Chrome Web Store. And the idea with that is like that gets like 8,000 searches a month just in the US, Python Code Runner. And so there's this kind of like SEO hack where if you call your Chrome extension like a keyword, then because it's on like a google.com domain, then you get like a bit of a boost for that. So it's like it's currently the top of page 2, which is like the most frustrating way to be, like most frustrating place to be, because it's you're almost getting some traffic, but it should tick up with time, and then hopefully it can be kind of in the top 5 for like Python Code Runner, which should drive a lot of people as well.
So you've successfully done Data Fetcher. That's in a really healthy place. It's given you the freedom to pursue other things like Clip Run, which like you can do these experiments, try to build the thing, see, get feedback, see what people want, build more stuff, experiment with different acquisition strategies. I guess looking back on these like past 5 years, if you could go back and just give Andy, when he was contemplating like making his first product or leaving his job, what one piece of advice would you want to give that past version of yourself?
I think picking the right idea is actually quite key. People say it's all execution, but I think it does come down to that idea. And that idea depends on the timing. Yeah, there are some good ideas that are too early or too late, or whatever, but timing plus idea, I think, is the key. And knowing, when to give up on stuff, and that will probably be a real test with Clipper now, is if it's still where it is in 2 months, like, do you persevere? Do you keep going with it? And I would probably just say some words of reassurance and say, like, it is all going to be as good as you hope. Like, you are gonna absolutely love it when you get there. So like, keep going, because there's like sacrifice to build these things. Like when you have a day job, you are missing out on stuff to do it. So I think just like, persevering and knowing that it'll be worth it.
Keep going, persevere. Great words of wisdom. I think that's rule number 1 of entrepreneurship. Well, Andy, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. Like, I learned a lot, gave me some inspiration, and I'm sure it did to others watching as well. Where can people keep up with you?
So I'm on X/Twitter as my username is Clokehead, which is my surname, Cloke. That's, I don't do the whole build in public thing as much as I did, but I still post a few updates now and then. And then, datafetcher.com as well. I have the blog there. Want to hit 25K, which should be quite soon. I'm going to do like another kind of, journey to bootstrap into 25K posts quite soon. So,
Awesome.
those 2 places.
All right, Andy, thanks so much.
Cheers. Thanks a lot. Bye.